there's nothing wrong with the. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, we're live. That's great. Hi, Deepak. How
Absolutely.
are you?
Lubaina, long time. Good to see you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, I'm very, very happy, delighted to introduce an old friend, Deepak Dalal, by far my most favorite wildlife author, adventure author. And we're here today to talk about his very popular series, entirely refurbished and presented for newer audiences. And there are two of these books that are just out. And Deepak, over to you to tell us about your two new books.
All right. So here they are. This one
Oh,
is Ranthambore, and the other one is Ladakh Adventure. I don't know if you can see them well. Here are the covers. Um, of these two books, Ranthambore was written earlier. It was one of my first books which I wrote, and it's been completely redone, as Lubaina said, rewritten, reimagined, not really reimagined, but just completely rewritten, represented. And both these books, because they're being republished by Penguin as part of their publishing repertoire. So Ranthambore is essentially, it came up because, back in the, I would say in the 80s, the tiger population in India really plummeted. And it was terrible seeing the numbers going down, 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 down. And I said, I got to find out something about this. I mean, it was terrible. I just couldn't take it like that. And I decided to investigate this. I went to Ranthambore. I spent a lot of time there. I met poachers. I met
oh,
who actually kill tigers. Yes, yes, we met them and talked to them. Uh, I met people who were fighting from the other side, a team called Wildlife Protection Society of India. They told me what was going on. I got into this, I saw so much that was happening. And the rest of the, forget India, but even the rest of the world, nobody knew what was going on out there. And so, really, that was the genesis of this book, to write a story for children about tigers. And because the children's book, it's about how kids themselves get involved in it, how they stop the poaching of a tiger. That's all part of the adventure and the story. And also but the most important thing about this book was to actually present the life of a tiger through a tiger's eyes. And
wow.
that's half of the story of Ranthambore Adventure. And then there's the other one, Ladakh Adventure. Ladakh has always been on my place to visit kind of list, number one on it, amongst the highest. I've always been fascinated with this part of our country. I've seen photographs of it in National Geographic. I bought all the books I could, and I saw those landscapes. It was the landscapes of Ladakh which just set me off.
Yeah,
Incredible landscapes. And in
yeah.
those days when I went there, this movie Three Idiots had not been released, and nobody knew about Ladakh. It was empty. There were no tourists out there. I remember when I asked for my flight to be booked there,
Hmm.
my travel agent didn't know where Leh was. And the travel agent thought this was France, and I got a ticket to but anyway, going back to Ladakh, it's this incredible place. And I had a wonderful time writing the story on Ladakh Adventure. But
What I
I set, yeah, yeah. But Lobaina, you had a question.
Yeah, what I love about this whole series
Hello?
is it's centered around two brothers, right? Um, how did you come up with them? And it's a really
Two
cool
friends, two very good friends.
name pair, right?
So yeah, they're actually best friends. They study in a boarding school. I went to a boarding school myself, so obviously I
Okay.
gave them a background in a boarding school. And this is where they go on their holidays. And one of the friends, his name is Vikram, his father is part of an ecological group who look into wildlife and conservation, and and the other friend Aditya, his best friend, who's always ready for adventure, and they go to different parts of the world. I mean, different parts of India, right from the
Mm.
Andaman Islands, Lakshadweep Islands, Ladakh, Ranthambore, Sayadris. I set stories in different
Wow.
parts. And so, yeah, just like how we grew up, we read these books and the series books like Hardy Boys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is a kind of
Yeah.
similar thing, but it was meant for a slightly more higher audience than that. But it came
Love.
out of these two kids, and that's how the stories came about. Yeah.
Are they two very different friends? I mean, they have different. Do they
Oh yeah, yeah,
complement?
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Vikram is the main person in the stories, and he always is level-headed. He's the kind of person I always wanted to be, but I have never been that sort. Who plans perfectly, who researches perfectly, who does things correctly, and who is very good at whatever he does. And a tremendous thinking mind. Aditya, his friend, is the exact opposite. He is impulsive character, does what he wants to, depending on what he sees, and no planning, just makes a mess of it. He's extremely, he's a brilliant athlete. He's good also at whatever he does. It's just that his mentality is very different from Vikram. And so when they go out on adventures together, you said they complement each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Lovely. Yeah, they are pretty nail biting. So I know that Ranthambore really had me sort of hooked from the beginning to the end. And so many things that I learned about poaching. So you said you actually met poachers. Were they sort of accessible? Can you talk to them? I mean, everybody says they're super dangerous and there's this whole mafia and it's all very, scary. So,
so the poachers in these, in most cases of poaching in India for tigers, the poachers they do the work of the killing, but they're not really the perpetrators of the crime. The perpetrators of the crime are the people who pay them. Now, if you go to a person who's barely earns about, a few, maybe a few thousand rupees in a month, because that's what you earn in villages, and somebody comes and gives them 10,000 rupees for an overnight work for killing a tiger, he gets tempted and he does it. But he's not really. I mean, he's an ordinary person. He's not necessarily a killer. He's not necessarily someone. It's the people who pay the money, the people who collect the bones, who move the bones. Tiger bones is what we kill tigers for their bones. All right, and so they're the people who actually do everything. The poacher is just a very small cog in this whole,
so
in
who
this
is the
entire
poacher
system.
actually? The
He's just
villager?
yeah, he's a simple villager. You ask around, they know who has killed the tigers. You go and meet these guys. They're simple people, you know. Uh, they just want extra money. All of us want extra money. I mean, some of us are, who even in our cases, that some of us who don't have enough money. Somebody asks you to do something, and you're going to get a big sum of money. You might do it. It's so poachers are simple villagers. They're not people who plan. They're not people who have an objective. And it's just a question of making money on this. They're not necessarily bad people. So they're
But
simple villagers. Yeah.
but they sort of. I always think of poaching as something as dangerous as organized crime, right? Uh,
Uh,
did you come across any sort of danger when you were researching this book?
no, 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 nothing of that sort. Because they are not criminals. Actually, they live ordinary lives. So they take you into their home to speak. Uh, under conditions that you don't mention their name. They're pretty open. They talk about it. They say what they do. Uh, they're actually, for the majority of cases, simple people. Of course, you get a few crooks who do this kind of stuff, but
Yeah,
otherwise, they're pretty ordinary people just out to make a living. And it's there. You can make it. The tiger is in that forest, uh, available to you. You're not allowed into that forest. You can't take your cows into the forest to eat. But that forest is right next to your home, and you can get nothing out of it. You're kept out of it. Once in
yeah,
a while you go ahead and make money out of it. That's the
yeah.
mentality, and they see nothing wrong in that. So
Yeah. So basically, when you come to the question of wildlife and conservation, there are so many aspects to this, right? I mean, it's not just black and white, it's people's lives
no, no,
involved,
no, no.
you know.
Correct. There's so much involved. uh, to the local villager, he often gets nothing. You see, suppose you take, for example, Ranthambore, they make a lot of money, the government of Rajasthan, through the entry fees. Every day, they make so much money for cameras, people who come in to take photographs. But on every little, they make a huge sum of money every day. How much of that money comes down to the local people who live there. Hardly anything. It all goes to Jaipur. So they don't benefit from these places. And the worst part is they can't take there's so much grass inside there. They can't take their cattle in there. So they get angry. This is the forest department. It's right here. I can't do anything with it. And you're not paying us anything. So in a sense, they're pretty upset with what's going on. And it varies from place to place. I mean, what I'm saying in Ranthambore might not be the same, say, in Kanha. It might not be the same in Kaziranga. These are very far away, far-flung places, and they all have different dynamics. But at the end of the day,
Sorry, go ahead.
At the end of the day, it's just, for them, it's just a job. They're not necessarily bad people. There are, of course, all sorts, but for them, it's just another job.
When you said were telling the story through the eyes of a tiger, that's pretty amazing. So you must have tracked a tiger pretty closely. Did you get to see a lot of tigers? Did you follow them?
Yeah, when I first went to Ranthambore with this idea of writing a story for children about tigers, I went to the forest department pretty naively, actually, when I look back on it. And I said, look, sir, I went to the chief forest officer. I went to him and the CFO, sir, I want to write a book. Is it okay if I enter the park? And he said, yes, but you have to sit in a jeep. And I looked at him and I said, sir, in a jeep, all I hear is the sound of the engine. All I smell is the smell of the diesel from the car in front of me. And there are these big crowds, and I don't want to do that. I want to sit in peace. I want to enjoy the place. I want to walk around. He said, Deepak, sorry, can't allow this. I tried to plead my case, and he said, look, officially, I just cannot allow it. But he let it be known to me that if I walked in the forest with some people whom he knew, he would turn and look the other way. So he would turn a blind eye to me. And that's how I went about and do it. It was a kind of tacit approval that, okay, I know what you're doing. I approve of your project, And so I found a few locals, and they would take me around, and we would walk around. So yes, we had a tiger crossing our path. And,
wow.
And it's just a myth that a tiger, when it sees a human, is going to attack it. That's all nonsense. They're scared of us. They're literally scared of us, And because they know if they bring down a human, there's a repercussion. They've learned to live with us and accept us in a different way, but they're not going to, if they see a human, they're not going to jump on him. Otherwise, we have hundreds of deaths every day.
Yeah,
but
I know.
So it was just a fascinating experience watching the tiger walk past, not once, but a couple of times. They just ignore you and they walk past. So,
but did you not feel vulnerable? I mean, we're so used to sitting in the jeep and having some sort of barrier between us and,
Where's the barrier in the jeep? The only thing they know that, actually what happens, tigers trust people in jeeps because the jeeps come in, they go out, nobody gets harmed. They fully trust. They're fully relaxed when they see people in jeeps. The problem is when they see you walking, it's a different story. They don't trust you. All right, they because there are poachers who come in on foot. There are people who create trouble who come in on foot. And if you're on foot, then they become wary of you and they keep their distance from you. They will not saunter in front of you. They won't show you. They'll walk past, but then they won't stick around. In a jeep, it doesn't matter. Then they know they can trust these people. Nothing's going to go wrong. So it's a different dynamic out there. And truthfully speaking, it's a myth. They're not going to attack you if they see you. I've not once or twice in different forests. I had different experiences with tigers. Once we were like counting tigers as part of a forest department. This thing in down south near Mudumalai, and I remember it was just me alone walking through the forest. Nobody with me, and there it was raining, and I could see the pug marks of a tiger, and I was walking the same path the tiger was walking on. And they were, because it was raining, it was obvious that these were fresh pug marks. And then I came to a bush. I came to a bush and it was stinking. Tigers smell terribly. And it was smelling like hell. And I was 5 feet from the bush. I couldn't see the tiger. He was sitting so still. I just walked on and he sat there. So, it's they leave you alone. And if you understand this, you're okay. Obviously, if you come across a tigress who's got a pair of cubs, That's a different story. She will do anything to protect her cubs, and if she sees anybody close by, she's going to attack. But under normal circumstances, it's okay. So
Mhm. My goodness me. I mean, I cannot imagine, taking a walk in the forest and knowing that there's a tiger in the bush and you have all these clues, obviously, the smell and the pug marks and, things like that that can tell you the tiger is there. But wanted to, I personally love the forest, and I think tiger or no tiger, just walking through a forest, well, I've never walked through a forest, but just driving through a forest is just a different experience, I think.
there's
uh,
a there's a sense of peace, a sense of wilderness, you know,
yeah, yeah,
which no other place can provide but forests.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just random trees, no fixed order in growth. It's no lines, you know.
yeah,
It's just perfectly natural, and there are leaves falling all the time. That's
yeah,
the one thing in forest. It's a splendid experience,
yeah,
and it's something which kids just do not. Today's children, particularly, when they're taken on holidays, they're taken to other cities. They live their lives in cities. They move to other cities. They don't get
mm,
a chance to see these things. And half the
mm,
reason I write these books is to connect children with these wilderness areas,
mm,
with some kind of thing of wildlife, and see how beautiful these spaces are. And they are. And I try and give that beauty through these books because, otherwise kids are going to see they don't travel there, and this is a huge thing missing in their lives.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, you know, the forest is a beautiful place, undoubtedly, but I wanted to move to an entirely different kind of terrain. The cold desert, the place that you said, you wanted to, that was really on your bucket list. As a matter of fact, it was on mine too. I had, in fact, called you and asked you for tips on how to travel to Ladakh, I remember.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
so, you went to Ladakh when it was, comparatively unspoiled. It still is unspoiled. Um, and tell me about your first impressions of Ladakh, and what did you want to convey in the book about that land?
Well, first impressions take a while to settle in, but there's so much you've taken out there. But I think the most important thing is the landscape. It is so bizarre. It's like
Yeah,
nothing you've ever seen. I mean, the one mountain to the next, they're completely colored in different colors.
yeah,
And this is the place where India, the subcontinent of India, banged into the mass of Asia,
yeah,
and you can actually see that. You can
yeah,
see that. You can see the remnants of coral. You can
yeah,
see there are what do you call there's a lot of evidence that India is out there, and those colors and the way the landscape changes and the beauty of the landscape, and it's a pure wilderness. It's a supreme wilderness like I don't think you can find anywhere else in India. It's just
yeah,
stunning. It's stark. It's beautiful. It just bowled me
mm,
over. And I
yeah,
just trekked and I trekked and I trekked. I went searching for the snow leopard. I was researching the story. I met a lot of wildlife people out there. That's what I always do. I develop a lot of my stories through people who are studying wildlife there. And they
mhm,
give me so much input, which I could never have gathered even if I stayed there years, you know. And so I
mm.
try and
It
so
is everybody's dream to see the snow leopard. Did you actually see one?
well, I'll give you two these things. I did see a snow leopard. I actually went on an expedition to search for a snow leopard. There was an
Okay.
international expedition. There was a lot of people from all around the world
Mhm,
who joined in, and so I was the only Indian on that trip. I mean, though it was run by Indians, uh,
mhm,
uh, but there were people from abroad who came in. And I came in free because I said, look, I want to write a book. And I knew the person who was doing it. So he took me along, and it was wonderful. And what we saw of the snow leopard was pretty distant when we finally saw it. It was on a cliff far away on a mountain, opposite us. And when you even look through binoculars, the thing that struck me most is that if you lost him even for a second, he was lost because he just sat so still. he or she, I mean, I wouldn't know whether it was male or female, they sat so still that they kind of, the landscape draws them in. And there are all these boulders out there all over Ladakh, and he just becomes another boulder. You don't know which one it is. That was the one thing that struck me, that it is, they call it the grey ghost of the Himalaya. You can be
Yeah.
staring right at, but you lose them in an instant. And the thing is, they, what they do often is they roll in the, like I told you, in Ladakh, each mountain is different colors. They
Mhm.
roll in the sand, or the the scree out there, and they pick up the color of the mountain.
Oh
And
my.
yeah, and they just fade in out there. Um,
Oh.
I had another experience with my two daughters. I
Mhm.
had taken them several years back, about 10 years back. And, they landed at Ladakh Leh Airport, and they said, "Wow, Dad, this is so lovely. It was cold, 5 degrees Celsius." And I remember both of them saying, "Snowy, snowy, I want to see snowy." So I said, "Listen, people spend months searching for snow leopards, they never see them, sometimes years. And you're here for just like 3 weeks, no way you're going to see a snow leopard." But the way it turned out, I was living with this gentleman, David Sona. He's
Mhm.
the head of the International Snow Leopard Society. People come to him. And so one day David said, "Listen, Zo, DZO, which is a cross between a yak and a cow. And these are big
Mhm.
animals." And he said, "Look,
Mhm.
you might come back tomorrow to eat it." And this was some remote part of Ladakh where there's no network coverage. He climbed a 20,000-foot mountain to make this call to David. So David, me,
Wow.
and my two daughters went. And we drove all the way there. It was really deep inside. I remember it was snowing, it was freezing cold, it was overcast. And when we first landed up there, no sign of the snow leopard. But we saw one tent out there, and
Mhm.
there was obviously somebody who already arrived and was looking around. We went searching, searching, didn't find the snow leopard. When we came back to the tent, there was a snow leopard right in front. And
My.
there was this photographer sitting inside the tent, and he called us in because the dead zoo was there, and the snow leopard had come to feed. It was brilliant, and my kids loved it. They saw a
Oh
snow
my
leopard for the first time. You know, so
Oh
things are
my
changing now, and it's easier to see snow leopards. Earlier, the locals would kill snow leopards because snow leopards were pests as far as they were concerned, because they have these sheep. You've heard, and their lives are dependent on their livestock. And when snow leopards attack, often they kill several of them, and
Oh.
so for them they're pests. But now
Mm.
the villagers, their cattle are insured. So if a snow leopard kills it and you prove that it has been killed by a snow leopard, you get compensated for it.
Oh,
And
okay.
plus, what happens is they've realized that so many tourists come to see snow leopards, so they find a bigger industry in showing them snow leopards instead of killing snow leopards. So things have changed around a lot, and snow
Okay.
leopards are more visible, and it's a huge conservation effort. They
Mm.
actually, the conservationists collect funds from various people to pay the insurance in case these animals get killed. So it's a big
Okay.
effort which has worked so well,
Mm.
and yeah, so now they're more visible.
That's
So
beautiful. That's
yeah,
beautiful. So you said the Ladakh adventure is actually a precursor to uh, a second book, which is the Snow Leopard Adventure. Okay.
correct.
Is
And
that
snow
out
leopard
yet?
that has
How is that
come out.
being released?
Yeah, I would have preferred that these two came out together, but Penguin wanted Ranthambore Adventure out. So that's why there's a gap between Ladakh and Snow Leopard Adventure. But one follows the other. In a sense, Ladakh Adventure is a prequel to this one, to the Snow Leopard Adventure. It's a story which continues, but there's a wonderful break. You can either read one or the second one, and you will still get a full story. So
How many books are there in this series?
totally 8 at this point. Two set
Wow.
in two set in our Western Ghats, what we call the Sayadris.
Mhm.
Two set in the Andaman Islands. Okay,
Mhm.
two set in Ladakh. That is Ladakh Adventure and Snow Leopard Adventure, and Ranthambore Adventures and Lakshadweep Adventures there. So that
I
adds up.
remember Lakshadweep Adventure. Yeah.
Oh yes, I remember all those years back.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
yeah.
Uh, so, That means you've pretty much covered most of the areas of biodiversity and natural interest in the country.
No, there's so much in this country, frankly. You have Kaziranga, you
Oh, yeah,
have
the
you have the
Northeast.
Sundarbans. I mean, you have so much in this country. I would not even. I don't think by the time my work is finished, I will even scratch the surface. We have,
Mm,
in spite of having 1.3 billion people, we have huge wilderness areas, and that really is commendable that we have. Today, the
yeah,
killing tigers don't exist in any other countries, the range countries they were in earlier. But in
yeah,
India, we have the largest number. That's why there's a big difference. We
yeah,
actually look after animals, and despite all the problems,
yeah.
conservation is winning out.
Yes.
And not winning everywhere, but
Uh,
we are making a difference. We're making a difference. There's a definite
Lovely.
difference. Yeah.
Somebody has a question saying, is there a possibility of covering Nalamala forest range?
Now, exactly where Nallamala forest range is, I'm not sure. Okay, but I would go to a place which is unique, which is different, where I see something where I can build a story from. So it's
Mhm.
I do choose these places from what I read, etc. And I go there, and I don't go in with a story in my mind. I go there completely blank. It's a blank slate, and I
Mm.
absorb and I see, and I spend a couple of months out there. Not necessarily all at one time. I go back, write, come back again, and that's how these stories are formed. So
Lovely.
there are many forest sanctuaries, and this particular one is. Whoever has sent that chat, please send me where it is. I'd be very happy to actually keep it as someplace where I might go eventually.
One more place to explore.
Yes, and if it's a beautiful place, why not? You know.
Yeah. So, Deepak, I was just thinking that since we want to, end this session in just a little bit, although I don't want to stop talking to you, but
Mhm.
I think, we'll have to wrap up in a bit. Uh, shall we ask our audience to see some questions about wildlife?
That's a great idea. Go ahead.
So,
Yeah.
uh, this is a question that Deepak has given me, and if anybody knows the answer, what is the state bird of Ladakh? Does anybody know what the state bird of Ladakh is? Poini or Arun or anybody? By the way, Arun says this Nalamala forest range covers Andhra and Telangana states.
All right. Yeah, this is really interior India, and
Yeah.
there are some fabulous forests out there. There are. Okay. Thank you so much, Arun.
Um, so, okay, the state bird of Ladakh, you want to tell us, Deepak, what it is?
So when we hear the word crane, in most kids think of those things on top of buildings, which are used to
Mm,
lift various things. That's what they think about cranes. But cranes are also birds, and they're magnificent birds. They're tall, they fly with tremendous grace, and they're incredibly beautiful. And
mm,
in Ladakh, we get these birds called the black-necked cranes. They
mm,
are so beautiful, and they were so remote that science did not discover them till the 1800s. I mean, they knew about 14 other species of cranes, and this was the 15th one, which was discovered finally by science. But they'd
wow.
always been around. They come for summer into Ladakh,
Mhm.
into various parts of Ladakh, and they winter in Bhutan and a few other places.
Okay.
So,
Poini has tried, she says, monal pheasant, but Poini, the right answer is a black necked crane.
so
Um,
monarch pheasant is the state bird of Himachal. Himachal,
okay.
Himachal Pradesh. So pretty good, not bad.
Yay. Okay. I'm going to try to show a picture of this. If I goof up, I'll come back on the screen. Okay. Um,
Uh-huh.
and because the next question is going to ask you to identify what I'm going to show, the animal I'm going to show on the screen. Um,
Okay.
hey, so here we go. What animal is this, and where can we find it?
Oh, all right.
Okay,
There it's come. Oh,
one second.
end of
It's
pressure. Technology.
yeah, absolutely. So did you get to see that, quite okay?
It wasn't long enough.
But was it
We
clear?
just saw
Could
Vincent.
you see? Okay.
Not
Any
long
guesses?
enough. Okay, some hints when you're traveling to around in Ladakh. These little brown furry creatures are everywhere. Okay, in the
Yeah,
mountains, and unfortunately, a lot of people are feeding them nowadays, which they shouldn't.
yeah.
Uh,
When we drove from, I think, Leh to Pangong, we saw a bunch of them.
yeah, and they
And
always
hey,
come and show
how
themselves.
about this? Poini Mehta says it's the marmot. Is that correct?
Well done, Mohini. Well done.
Hey.
Well done. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, I'm going to ask one more question, um, which is also provided by Deepak, and let's see how well you guys know your tigers. Um, which species of tiger makes its home in snowbound habitats?
Come on, it's an easy one.
Yeah. Which tiger lives in snowbound habitats? Uh,
Physically, it's the smallest. Anyway, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
Physically, it's the smallest of all the different species of tigers. In the cold, to keep the heat in, they have less surface area. So they're the
I
smallest of all tigers. So,
They have a really thick fur, I suppose.
oh yeah.
Uh, the hint, I suppose, will lie in the name. So I guess we could say that it is found in a really sort of a cold
Cold.
part of Russia.
Come
Oh,
on, kid.
Spoy is on a roll, man. She says
Mohini
Siberian.
again. All right. Well done. Well done.
Is
Yeah,
it the
she's really on
Siberian
a roll. It is the Siberian tiger. It's also called the Amur tiger because the river called Amur flows out there.
tiger?
And
Okay.
yeah, but very few remain. Only 400 remain. And we're not
Oh,
sure how long they will survive. They're
okay.
incredibly beautiful animals in a beautiful part of the world.
So I
Yeah.
have two more people who attempted it, but they said snow tiger, but it was Siberian tiger, right? So,
Siberian tiger is correct.
okay. One last question. What is the main reason why tigers are poached? Uh, Deepak, you want to tell us why?
Well, it's for their bones nowadays. Earlier it was for their skin, but if you kill a tiger and put your skin up in your home or something, the police will arrest you because it is illegal. It's the people in China. They use tiger bones for medicines. And they've killed all their tigers. Their tiger, which is the South China tiger, has gone extinct.
Oh,
So,
my.
yeah, so they came to India. And ever since they came to India and asking for bones, our tigers' numbers have plummeted. It is one of
Oh,
the main reasons is traditional Chinese medicine, which consumes tiger bone. That's how
oh
it
dear.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
so yeah, we have some questions. I mean, some responses that said skin and skin teeth, uh, skin and teeth also.
Yeah.
Tigers.
But skin, it's less useful nowadays, but teeth, claws, bones, all part of the same thing. They go into
Okay.
traditional Chinese medicine. That's what it is.
Okay. I quickly want to share some comments. Poini says, I have met you a long time ago when I was working at Gopi Birla School. And thank
Oh,
you for, I am all for wildlife, nature, and environment. So, uh,
thank you. Well, nice to meet you again, Mohini.
I think Mayura Misra says, Hi, Deepak, good to see you.
Oh,
Um,
Mayura. Okay, all the way from Calcutta. Good to see you, Mayura.
a couple of
So
such
nice.
comments. But
Oh,
I'm so happy to have had this opportunity to talk to you and know so much more about tigers and Ranthambore and Ladakh and the beauty of the wildlife spots in our country. It's not just the wildlife, the habitats, the biomes. So much to absorb and appreciate. Thanks so much, Deepak. All
thank
of these
you.
books are available at the Crossword bookstore online or at the stores physically. So I hope you'll just rush out right now and go get your copy.
Do that.
Thanks.
Nice chatting with you, Lubaina. Thank you so much. Thank you, Crossword. Thanks
Talk
so
to you
much.
soon.
All
Bye.
right. Bye bye.